All right, ladies and gentlemen, so at this juncture, we should have our grid. And our grid should be 4 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4. They should be perfect squares. If you see that one column is too skinny or too wide, or these things look like rectangles, something's gone wrong. Don't move on to the next part. Make sure that you don't move on to the next part until I've graded this and given it back to you. Then what you're going to have is each of you is going to receive one small part of the picture. Not everybody is doing the same picture. There's about 28 of you in class. The picture's been divided into 30. So each and every one of you will have a part. Some parts might feel more important than others, like, ooh, the eye is really important. We got to make sure that one looks good. But so does the cheek, so does the chin, so does every single part of the face, because if you don't do a good part on your part, it won't fit together. And the idea, again, is this all fits together like one big jigsaw puzzle and that it works. Now, everybody's is going to look a little different. Everybody's drawing is going to be a little bit different. But if we get the proportions right and the layout right by using this grid, well, it'll end up working and it'll end up looking good. So I'm going to do a couple demos. The first one is going to be for, I'm going to pick the eye because I believe the eye is, it's an easy one to figure out how to draw. Getting it the right size and shape is different. But I'm going to first off tell you how I'm using these measurements. Part of it is to try to figure out, like coordinates on a grid, where do things fit? Now, if I look at this part of the eye, it all fits in this box, all right? 4 boxes here, 4 boxes there. My job is to figure out how far down into the box, how far up over here, how much space do we have here and here, because it's not just about drawing an eye in this box, it's still trying to get the right placement, size, and that important word that we talked about last week, or the first week, was proportion. So that size relationship, proportion. So how do we figure that out? Now, these pictures are zoomed in on a bigger one. So yeah, they're gonna be a little gritty. They may be a little bit out of focus, but really what I want you to focus on is edges. Where do you see an edge? If you don't see an edge, don't draw it. That's my number one rule over here when we go on later on to draw portraits, is that if you don't see the edge, don't make something up. Don't look to just, well, I'm just going to draw an eye that fits in here. I want to draw this eye. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to figure out some of the things that are easy to guess. And what I like is when stuff is like close to the X marks a spot or to the edge. And what you see right over here is that I've got this little tiny piece, this little tiny triangle, which is an edge as part of his eyelid. Now, I could start anywhere, but I like this because it's close to this center part, and it's really small, so I can kind of guesstimate a little bit better on where and how that's going to fit. Now, do I know what I'm drawing here is exactly right? I have no idea. I'm guessing right now, but it's an educated guess. If I was to draw the edge of that thing way up over there, we realize this is way too much space for it, right? We realize it's a teeny tiny spot. It's a little skinny triangle. You see what I've drawn over here? I feel like that's pretty good. But the same thing goes, just because you kind of know where the spot is, drawing a small triangle like this isn't really what's happening in the picture. So we want to take a look and see the shape. We want to see how little that is compared to how big the rest of the box is. And we want to try to mark it off and get that little piece in. So I'm guessing, I may not be totally right, but you could be close. Now, it follows up. If I think this is right, I already know where the next part's going to go. But one of the things I like over here is, again, I've got this other little triangle, and it's close to the red line. I like the way that works out. And that's another one that's easy for me to kind of guesstimate. I may not be exactly right, but I'll be closer than just putting something out in the middle of nowhere. And by drawing those 2 little pieces, it already gives me plenty of idea of where and how I should draw the rest of that ridge. So I'm already started, I'm already working. And I know where this is going to go. Now I might want to kind of think, I could see the rest of the edge of this thing. How far into this box does it go? I'm just looking from this point to this point. And I'm going to look here. Well, it's not quite the middle. because I feel like this part right here is shorter than that part. And when I go to my drawing over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of decide a spot where I think it's not quite halfway through, and that's going to help me finish that off. Now for the eyeball itself, I already have some information on the page, so now I can work from there. First, you can see his eyelashes, and that's a thick, dark area. And I don't really see where the edge is there. I see like where the white kind of stops over here. I'm not going to go crazy with every little tiny detail right away, but what I want to do is I want to kind of, sorry about that, I want to kind of decide how much space should there be down. Now if I look at how much space I put up top here, it looks like there's that much eyelid underneath there. So whatever I put up here, I'm gonna try to put the same amount right underneath there. And then as I look at this eye, I'm gonna try to figure out where I should go the rest of the way. So if I look at this side, let's see this sort of white part. I'm not going to count the dark area over here. I'm going to look at just the white part. Kind of curves downward, and where it ends up over here, this is kind of in the top third, I guess, of that box. If you look, this part is much longer than that part. So what I'm going to do is I want to make a little mark, a little guesstimate right here. And again, I'm just going to kind of guesstimate approximately where that part of the eye is going to go. Now, between the eyeball itself and the skin, there is a little bit of eyelash, and that's sort of a thick, dark area. So my job again is to kind of guesstimate how much should be that thick, dark area, and it looks like it gets a little thicker down here. So I'm going to look at the edge right there. Now see where that is, and that's much lower in this box. From this point to this point compared to there, that is below halfway. Now I'm going to look here, and again, I'm going to kind of try to guess below halfway. And I'm going to use that little measurement to try to guess my way through that. Now I know I have a little tiny space, and then I have this part of the eye, and I can see that edge again, that edge right over there. And I'm going to look at that edge, and I'm going to look at the curve of it, and I'm going to say on this side is a little higher up than this side. So if I'm starting down here, I'm going to try to put it up just a little bit higher, and then I'm going to work to make that little curve. All right. Now I've got the pupil part of the eye. I've got a good edge right over here. I've got this big white expanse, and then I have the dark part of the eye. So one of the things I want to look at is I want to look at this big white triangle, and I want to make sure that I leave enough space for that big white triangle. I also want to kind of think about how far into this box do I see the edge of this eye. If I look right over here, I'm going to say that this is a little bit less than halfway. Well, I'm going to kind of mark that off. I'm going to look at the curve of it, and I'm going to draw something lightly, and then I'm really going to pay attention to this sort of triangle and that sort of triangle. And I think when I do that, I feel like I want to make everything just a little bit smaller. Just take a little bit off this thing to try to make sure that this white triangle kind of feels like it's the same proportions as the other one. I got a little white circle in here for the highlight. That's a little something I can add over there. I've got another little tiny triangle right here with the edge that I have on the eye, and I'm going to add that little edge right down over there. And then that's going to kind of take me upwards this way. Now I've got to decide how much do I want on this side. It's going to be kind of hard to figure out, but I still do see the edges here. And I can see the white of the eye, and I think this is kind of like the tear duct. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as I could see the part of it. I'll see that this doesn't come in very far into this box. So when I'm drawing, I kind of want to make it only come that far. I want to look at the shapes, and when I see this, it kind of goes up very dramatically. And the rest of this kind of continues on into that corner. I'm going to look at this little white spot that we have here, this little white triangle, and I'm going to try to identify how much space should there be in there. Remember, there's a lot less dark of the eye on this side than there is on that side. And then if I have that much, all I have to really do is kind of continue that for that tear duct. You see the rest of my mark kind of fits in just like so. Now I'm going to look real hard in the rest of my picture. I kind of get a little bit of an edge here, and I think if I see an edge, that might be helpful to me. So I am going to kind of put that in there. But the rest of it, I don't really see edges. I see a little bit of mark making. Obviously, you can kind of guess that this is going to be the eyebrow up top over here. And what I'll do is I can give myself a little indication of where that is just for mapping out purposes. But really, that's all I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to basically just draw where I see edges, and where I don't see edges, I won't draw anything. All right, and that's really all I'm going to do. Now, for some parts of this picture, it may be easier to kind of see where the edges are and where things go. For others, it may not be. So, like, for example, I'll give you a slight difference. Let me just see. Got another grid ready to go over here. And I'll get rid of that. Now for this, again, what would I draw in a picture like this? I would look for the edges. Now I don't really have edges out over here, but I do have an edge here. I've got an edge here. There's shadow here underneath the nose I've got, and up there. So what I would do is, again, I would try to figure out where in each box should I start. How much empty space should I have, like right there? How low into this box should that shape go? And you'll notice I'm marking these things off first. Even if you don't draw the shape perfectly, as long as you have it be the right size, well, then they'll fit together easily. I can look at, there's an edge right there as far as the darkness of the nostril. I'll take a look on the other side. I want to look at how much space I have right over here. Just drawing the nostril up over here on this box isn't enough. I want to see how close and how far it is from that red line and decide where that's going to be. I want to take a look over here and see how far into this box it's going to go. I want to kind of measure those things out, because it's a lot more thinking, and you can kind of make sure that your stuff is in the right area when you're drawing it. You don't have to be superiorly artistically talented to do this and do it well. Really all you have to do is be patient and be a little accurate. And really what this is going to be is, this is going to be sort of a lesson going into our big portrait, because at some point we're going to be doing our own self-portraits, and you'll be doing the entire face on your own. So this will be our dry run. I'll look and I see a little bit of an edge here, but that's all I really draw in the picture. I could kind of mark off this since that reflection has a little bit of lightness, but that's really all I'll draw. Anything else that you might see over here as far as a transition from light to medium to darker areas, if you don't see an edge to it or a ridge or anything else like that, don't draw it. Don't make up stuff that isn't there. Some pictures might have more details, some parts might be less, but every single one of these things are important. Without each picture, it's not all going to fit together. So only draw what you can see, only draw the edges that you can see, and when you're done with this, you're going to take another photograph of this and send it back to me. I don't want to go into how to start coloring or doing the shading and everything else like that until I can see that you've done it correctly. So again, you're going to take a photograph of that, and you're going to upload this to the new assignment that I'm going to post, which is going to be drawing on the grid. So that'll be posted shortly, and you guys will